opening a gym makes you have to step back and almost, like I said earlier, become a business owner. But that's not really what I was I mean, I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm always been into business. But once I got into the gym space, I love fitness. I love movement. I wanted to get every certification I could. And having to step away from that and hire people to handle all that and not me focus on the business was a hard thing to do because it's not what I wanted to do.
Hey, what's up, everybody? That was Dan Uyemura, this episode's guest on the show. And I want to encourage you to go to trainergym.net, sign up for our new newsletter. You've never seen anything like this, I guarantee you. We're actually pretty proud of it. We're going to keep you in the know with upcoming events, so you'll be in the know before anybody else. You'll get a sneak peek on upcoming guests, next month's guests, and who's coming on the show and what they're talking about. And then my favorite part, where we're going to have the answers of previous month's guests to the questions of what's their most successful failure, what's their biggest surprise they've had to deal with in the fitness industry, and where do they go for their personal and professional development. And those will be linked up to YouTube clips so you can watch them instead of read them. And then we're also going to have a reading list from our past month's guests in case you're looking for something to read for your own personal and professional development. So again, go to trainergym.net, sign up for that newsletter, and let me know what you think. Now on to the guest, Dan Uyemura. He was a software engineer who became a gym owner, who became frustrated with the software that was out there. So he went back to his roots of being a software engineer and wrote his own gym software to run his gyms, filling in the gaps and the pain points that he identified as a gym owner. So there's lots of great information in this conversation and lots of great takeaways. So I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Dan Uyemura. Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to Masters in Fitness Business, where you get to stand on the shoulders of giants. And today we have a giant coming from California, Dan Uyemura from Push Press. This guy has a unique backstory in that he was a software developer who opened a gym and quickly found out that a lot of the software on the market didn't fit his business, his gym business. So, and I know there's a lot of gym owners right there, studio owners out there that, are in the same boat. So what he did is he decided to develop software specifically for gyms, for training gyms and studios. And so that's what we're here to talk about. So Dan, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad we can finally make this happen. Now, where are you in California?
We're in El Segundo, which is kind of by LAX.
Okay. All right. Other than the traffic, I love LA. Other than traffic and the people, I love that area of the country. But welcome to the show. So let's talk about that. So you're a software developer by trade?
Yeah. So, I mean, I came out of college right when the internet became kind of commercial. And I've always been entrepreneurial driven. So I just drifted right into the internet, and the easiest space at the time was programming because it was such a new thing. Nobody knew how to build anything on the internet yet. So I went right into programming for the internet. Yeah.
So how did you go from that to owning a gym?
Oh man. So the backstory of it basically is during this era, all these businesses would basically subsidize everything they could to keep engineers at their desk. So every night I would get Italian dinner served to me. We'd get Coca-Colas and coffee with cream and sugar on our desk all day long. I remember we used to have competitions on who could stack the biggest soda can, castle on their desk. And so we were probably consuming like 3,000 calories a day of just straight junk food so we can program longer. And after about 10 years of it, I put on a solid 20 pounds, didn't really recognize myself from my college days. I've always been kind of athletic and into working out. And for 10 years, I just neglected that completely. Decided at that point I needed to get in shape and kind of went through this journey of trying to find the most. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur, so I like doing things fast, right? So I went through this 100 push-up challenge to P90X to, this, and this, and I ended up in CrossFit because it was kind of the natural progression. So that's how I ended up in a CrossFit gym. Yeah.
Okay. And then you went from being a member to owning your own gym. Why did you decide to make that leap into ownership other than just that entrepreneurial spirit of yours?
So it's everything in my history is kind of rooted in my entrepreneurial spirit and the hustle of everything. When I get into stuff, I get into stuff. So I got into CrossFit. I remember in my first workout thinking like, this is it. I found my fitness passion of choice. Pretty quickly into that, I wanted to learn everything. I was watching videos. I just dove headfirst into it. And then the natural progression is I would like to learn how to help other people find and realize this new thing. This was in 2007 ish. And, not a lot of people knew about CrossFit at the time. And I was like, I want all my friends to know. So I kind of went down the route of learning how to coach. I got certified to coach. I started shadowing at my gym, and you can just see the progression from there, right?
Okay. And then you opened your own CrossFit box, which I'm sure brought its own new set of challenges.
Yeah. So couple all of that progression, that arc with me being a software engineer, I had to interface with the software that my gym used as a customer, and I could tell immediately that it was very subpar from what we were expected to build as an engineer. So in the back of my mind, I was thinking like this software space could be a thing that's pretty big. If I believe CrossFit's taking off, the software to support it should be taking off too. So I kind of parlayed my love for CrossFit and my desire to coach with my entrepreneurialism and wanting to open a gym, realizing I could open a gym with the idea of maybe the software thing could work out too into actually opening a gym.
Gotcha. So let's jump into that then. So when you open the CrossFit box, in addition to everything that comes with owning a gym, you have to deal with members, memberships, marketing, advertising, overhead costs, all of that stuff. But what were some of the gaps or the holes that from the glaring obvious ones to like the little ones that just are kind of annoying that you saw?
You mean in terms of software or just
in terms of software?
So I felt first and foremost from the customer standpoint, everything that was out there was very subpar. Like the experience I got as a customer was like, I remember just trying to like buy a foam roller and I couldn't figure out if I already had an account or if I didn't. And then it wanted me to connect Facebook and add a password and do all this stuff when I just wanted, my experience was like, I wanted a Shopify checkout. I just wanted to say, I want to buy a foam roller and check out. And I don't want to create an account and I don't want to do all this other stuff. And I especially don't want to link my Facebook to it, So from there, I didn't really know what the gym owner's viewpoint was. Once we opened the gym, we actually demoed most of the software that was out there and we found all the same. And my theory at the time was everyone probably just copied the industry leader because the industry leader was the industry leader. Mm-hmm. And therefore they were copying what I felt was not the right solution. So, it's just everything from like onboarding a new member, entering a credit card, like it just felt very clunky. And like it was a 10-minute process when it should have been a 30-second process. So you could just say that across the board for any functionality that you needed to do.
Yeah. So you're talking about from like a customer or client standpoint, there was a tremendous amount of friction between, like you were talking about, just trying to buy a simple foam roller and you had to go through all these steps. Usually if people have to go to a different page or create an account or create a password, they're out, then you wind up with all of these abandoned carts. But so what were some of the other examples, if you can give us specific examples? Because like I said, most of my listening audience is studio owners. And most of them are not happy with their software solution, but they don't want to change because it's a pain in the ass to change, to switch over, especially if you have a ton of clients and if you got EFTs coming out, all of that good stuff. So what were some of the examples of lots of friction from a client interfacing standpoint that you were experienced that you wanted to tackle?
So for me, the first thing we built was landing pages because that's the experience that I had with the foam roller. There was no idea or concept of logging in or creating an account. There was no idea or concept of multiple pages. It was what we knew in the industry as a landing page, which now I think everyone knows, but at the time, just a single page with one purpose, and that's to basically convert whatever the action is. In the case of a lead, it's just get the bare minimum of the person's information you need, and whatever information you need to make a decision on how to deal with this person, and then move on. In the case of a sale, it's here's what you're buying, here's how much it is, enter your name, enter your credit card, done, buy it, right? Same with a membership. So that was the first thing we did. Other things were like we didn't really see a system that gave you an easy way to manage your leads. So we created this whole lead flow. We felt like all the systems out there weren't really designed, for someone to pick up and learn in 10 minutes. Like it required hours and hours of training and hundreds of pages of manuals to read, which as a gym owner, I knew no gym owner had that kind of time to go through. And most gym owners I knew weren't technical, so they didn't really want to learn all that stuff. Their love is coaching people, right? So, and I forgot what my point B was, but I mean that was another major thing, was just simplicity and ease of use, right? What became a major focus of ours. So yeah, I mean I remember the part B of that was most gyms in the boutique space aren't full of employees. So you don't have a front desk employee and a general manager and all this. It's usually an owner and a couple coaches who are running the whole thing. And usually the coach on the floor is also the one who has to manage problems with billing and customer service questions and all that stuff. So we kind of designed the whole platform around the idea that one coach might be the only person in the gym at any given time. So checking in and knowing if someone signed a waiver and knowing if someone's payments are made and their membership's valid and all those things need to happen intelligently in a way that one coach on the floor can figure out that this is happening without them having to do all the work.
Yeah. It's instead of like checking people in and all of that good stuff.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. So those are some really, really valid points. So how many, when you said try it out, how many different software solutions did you try out?
So we went through the demo process of every major player at the time. This was in 2010, so there were significantly less at that time. But I think we demoed like 3 or 4 of the ones in the space. After I started going down this route, I realized there were a whole bunch of like legacy players who probably were around from the time when they would send you a CD-ROM. We didn't look at those guys, but now that I looked at them and they're in the same place now. Yeah.
Yeah. That's been also my experience. I went with those guys. I went with a guy that the CD-ROM guys, it looked like almost a DOS interface when I set it up. And I'm like, I don't think this is going to work for us. And then we went with the industry leader and it had, probably the majority of what we needed. But if there was anything else that we needed, any tech support, any software changes, any tweaks, they were like, sorry, this software, deal with it. Right. I mean, did you run into that same roadblock?
I mean, to be fair, with the industry leader, what we found was you could pretty much do everything with them, like super robust. The problem is most boutique gym owners have like this little narrow niche of what they need, and they don't need all the other stuff. But because they've built their software to work for every niche, they've got everything in there, which is good on one hand, because if you come across a hurdle where you need to do something, you can do it. The problem is it will take you, 12 hours to figure out how to do it, which again, I don't think most gym owners have that kind of time. And therefore it kind of falls to the tree, falls to the wayside.
Yeah. But most gym owners, even if they have the time, they don't want to take the time because like you said, they're not software people. They're gym people. They're trainers. So that's what they want to spend their time doing. So anything that you can do to reduce that learning curve is definitely going to be a plus. Okay. And then, at what point did you decide, okay, enough, I'm going to take this on myself?
Yeah, so I think it was when we opened our first gym in 2010, did the evals with all these other companies. Oh, actually, we knew we were going to do it at that point because we did all the evals with the software companies and we realized the software was subpar for what we wanted. But then during that process, I also spent about literally a month of my life. I was working at MySpace, and I would, like an hour a day when I was working, I was negotiating with the merchant processor. faxing them my information, sending them bank statements, doing all this due diligence background check. And it literally probably took me 20 plus hours to get this all done. Negotiations back and forth on rate, because I was trying to whittle them down as low as I could. Eventually I won. I got my rate at 1.9%, which I was ecstatic about. We operated for about a year. A member of ours came in who I'd known since college. He is a banker, and I was bragging about these accolades of mine. And he told me flat out that was impossible because he knew the industry. He told me to give me all my bank statements, and he looked them over, and he told me I was paying 4.5%.
Yeah, with all the hidden fees, the transaction fees.
Exactly. Yeah. So at this point, because I basically bragged about it for a year to my partners about how brilliant I was, I was not only embarrassed, but I was pissed, because I realized if it happened to me, and I felt like I kind of knew, even to negotiate, the normal gym owners out there were probably getting raped, right? So we actually did a bunch of merchant account analyses for gyms, and we found the exact same thing. Most people were paying about 4%. Thinking they were paying 2%.
Yeah.
So that became one of our mission, basically, because we're gym owners and I see where all the pains are and how people are getting kind of bent over by these organizations that really don't have their interests in mind. That became our championing movement, is to really take care of gym owners.
Yeah, because I've experienced that same thing, because we switched software January of last year. And we did the same thing. We shopped all these merchants account, and it's like a shell game with those guys.
Yeah.
Because they'll tell you, oh, it's 2.9 flat rate. But then it's also like for credit card, there's like a per transaction fee. There's like a transfer fee. There's this fee. And by the end of the day, like you said, you're right around 4.5%. And most people don't realize there's a big difference between 2.9 and 4.5 of what goes in your pocket. I mean, you're busting your ass and giving them money for free. I mean, nothing. I mean, there's nothing more frustrating than that. So sorry, go ahead.
The way I like to kind of simplify this to most gym owners is if you go in to buy a car, unless you've been in the car industry and you know how negotiations work, you lose every time. They will make you feel like you win, but you lose that negotiation every time, right? They know how to move the pieces around on the back end to still make them win. And essentially what it is in the car industry and the merchant industry, you're dealing with a salesperson who you're taking money out of their pocket every time you win, right? So it behooves them to win that negotiation because they make a bonus on the sale, right? In the case of merchant industry, it's even worse because they make a percentage of the transaction ongoing forever. Like that 4.5%, a certain percentage of that's going to the sales guy who closed that deal. So that's why it's a rough negotiation to get into that you really will have a hard time winning.
So some of those guys work in the merchant industry. They work on commission.
Oh yeah, the person you're dealing with in the sales end of it is that whole industry is based on commission, right? The whole merchant industry is based on commission. So yeah, everyone from the salesperson you're dealing with to the manager on top of them to the organization to everything there's pieces of that commission that's going to the people involved.
Oh yeah, you're right. So then their motivation is to line their own pockets, not yours.
Exactly.
Yeah. So how did you get around that?
So we actually partnered with a company called Stripe, which was just coming up at the time where we built this software platform. They work on the premise exactly that we were hoping for, which is you pay 2.9% plus 30 cents a transaction in the United States. It varies per country, but that's it, flat and fixed. There's no other fees whatsoever. They don't charge you to take your money out. There's no batch fees. There's no PCI compliance fees. There's no statement fees. There's none of that. Okay. It's just if you bill $1, you pay them 2.9 cents plus 30 cents.
And I know with some merchants, it also varies from credit card to credit card. Everybody knows Amex is the highest, but then if you have some of these cashback or rewards cards, then that's a different rate versus just a regular credit card. Does Stripe do that as well?
No, so Stripe's just flat. Okay. And that's why 2.9% is the industry average. When you take the bell curve of your lowest card to your Amexes and your corporate cards, they lose money on Amex transactions, right? And they'll make more money on debit cards. So when they take the bell curve of all that, it just averages out to 2.9%, where they can make a profit and still be able to run their business and employ all their people and it's just easy, right? It's easy to calculate, and there's no hidden numbers, and you don't have the potential of losing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing I like about Stripe, because we used Stripe at one point, is that the turnaround time is really quick. It's like a day, which is nice.
Well, it's actually 2 business days.
Mm-hmm.
So depending on who you work with, that could be a day. Like at the fastest, credit cards come 1 day. So you might be sacrificing a day. The thing here at PushPress is we're trying to build gym owners who aren't reliant on income to come in 24 hours. You know, like you're building a stable enough business where like that 48-hour rollover is just, you know, money that is continually flowing into your business.
So how do you do that? So what kind of structures do you have built in to make them, to create a stable business for them? So,
I mean, one thing that we've advocated from early on is like a lot of gyms will bill on the first of the month. And we pretty much tell people, you don't need to do that. Because a lot of negative things happen there. You know, obviously the pro to billing on the first of the month is you get all your money on one day and you can budget your whole month accordingly. But that's kind of like lazy man accounting, right? It's just like, I don't really want to think about what I can spend. So if I have all my money on the first, I can spend all my money through the month, right? So we're trying to teach people to be better business owners in general to begin with. So like, know what your costs are. And that way you can, even as the money rolls in through the month, you're okay spending what you need to spend. But that derived from a really old business concept. And again, it goes back to merchant processing. Like they used to charge you for transfers. So every time you made money, you'd have to pay money. You'd have to pay a quarter, right? So if you took money for 30 days, you're paying 25 cents for 30 days, even if you made $5 one day or $100 the next. So what people did is they just billed on the first. So they got one transfer and didn't have to pay all those fees throughout the whole month. But Stripe doesn't charge those fees. So just, it's okay. Right. So by taking your money all through the month, you're not reliant on one big paycheck coming in, where if it's delayed for 5 days, you might not pay rent, you know, because with credit card processing, it's all a risk game. So if something happens on one day where all of a sudden your merchant account provider's like, something's weird about this, we need to hold all the funds so we can look into it, you're not getting any of that money until they clear it. Right. So if it gets delayed and you're like, I take all my money on the first, I have to pay rent by the 5th, and we happen to wrap across a weekend and a holiday and my stuff got held for 24 hours, you might not get your money the 6th or the 7th. Right. And if that's 100% of your month's income, that could really impact a lot of things. Right. Yeah.
Payroll, rent, utilities, you name it, any of your overhead expenses. Okay. So you said when you first opened your gym in 2013, you started building this software, and you said it was kind of like a beta version, right? Like a scaled down version. What did that look like versus what it looks like now?
Right. So, well, we started building it in 2011. My first gym we opened in 2010. I had actually sold that by 2013, and it just so happened that one of the first clients, actually the second client on PushPress, was my second gym that I had opened. It was supposed to be the first, but some other guy found us and got in before me. Okay. So the early versions from 2011 to 2013, we basically threw away 2 different versions of it. The first one was supposed to be built on top of WordPress, because at the time, a lot of gyms managed their website on WordPress. So we thought, hey, it'd be cool if you can just manage your members in WordPress too. Turned out that was pretty hard to do. WordPress is a little limiting of a platform, and was just a lot of overhead that we didn't need. The second iteration, we had actually lined up to partner with a merchant account company that was more ethical. But Stripe came out when we were midway through that, and we looked at Stripe and we're like, these are the guys we want to use. So we threw away that version and built the Stripe version. So those are the 2 early betas.
Okay. And so what is the platform this current one is built on?
So we're built on top of Stripe.
Technology wise, we're on a LAMP stack. So that's for techie people. That's a Linux, Apache, PHP, MySQL. We're actually moving right now to a more modern stack that's more in line with things like Facebook built on, and we're heavily leveraging like a lot of Amazon's computing services. So I'm pretty sure by the time this is said and done, we will be like absolutely the most modern boutique gym platform out there, technology wise.
So compared to the industry leader, what are some of the advantages of your software versus the other versions or iterations of software out there?
Well,
for gym owners?
Yeah, for gym owners, I mean, the biggest and easiest thing I will talk about is our domain authority. I owned a gym. Another founder here has owned LAX CrossFit with me and continued on at LAX CrossFit when I went to Torrance. All of our front end people, customer support, customer success people, they're all gym owners who were clients of ours who loved it so much they wanted to join us. So anyone that you talk to as a customer, when you have support problems or you need advice or whatever, we understand what you're going through. We understand gyms. So I think that's the biggest difference. It's not like an intern right out of college, first job, who's trying to figure out their way in life. This is someone who's probably owned a gym for 5 years before working with us. That's the biggest thing. Other than that, it's like we also come from a software background. So we've built this whole thing pretty modern, and it's even becoming more modern technology wise, but it's simple. It's really easy to use, coming from the fact that we were gym owners and we're friends with gym owners, and we know what they will use and what they don't want to use. Right. There's a whole bunch of differences in the platform itself, but I would say the biggest one is when you talk to someone here, like, we can actually tell you or talk to you about running your gym because we've run gyms.
Yeah. From like a feature standpoint, give us like a top 3 features that are unique to you, where you identified some major problems for gym owners that the current software offerings don't address.
So, there's a couple. The first one I would say is our decision to be integrators, not an all-in-one. So we're in a field where everyone touts themselves as an all-in-one. We actually took the position that, like, all-in-ones can't be good at everything. In fact, they're probably mediocre at most things. So we just want to handle your billing and your member management and your coaching management and your back office as best as we can. And we integrate with everyone else. So, for example, like, workout tracking is a big thing in CrossFit. Most other of our competitors in the CrossFit space do workout tracking well. And it turns out they either do workout tracking really well and they kind of suck at billing, or they do the billing really well and they kind of suck at workout tracking. But I haven't seen one that does both of them lights out, where people are raving about both. Instead, we integrate with SugarWOD, which is like the biggest software tracker in our space, so well that, like, if you work with both, you don't even it almost seems like one app. Like, the SugarWOD stuff comes up in our members app automatically, and it's a one click to launch SugarWOD and record your workout right from there. So it's like we've integrated it to work very seamlessly. When we're doing this across all different industries, right? Instead of trying to build everything, we're working with other companies. The other, I guess, big thing that I like to talk about is this flow from onboarding a lead to getting someone in class without any interaction on your end, right? No friction, right? So it'll be like coming in as a lead. You might have to follow up with them with an email or a call. You can send them a link to join automatically. That will automatically send them your waivers and your agreements, which they can agree to from home. If they don't, because let's face it, like, a lot of people will ignore those, when they come to check into class on our check-in app, it will show them the waivers they need to sign before it allows them to check in. Once they sign those from the app and check into class, we have a TV screen app that sits on your gym floor, and then a coach can see everyone who's checked into the class. If someone's standing in front of me that hasn't checked in, then I tell them, can you please check in? And if they go like, oh, I had a problem, because either they haven't paid their membership, they haven't signed any waivers or anything like that, then I pull them to the side and say, what was the problem? Let's talk about it. And we can remedy that after class or during warmups or however we see fit. That's kind of that flow I was talking about, where we realize one coach on the floor has to run everything, right? So that gives them the bandwidth of being able to allow people to check in without them having to interact, and know if they've signed waivers, documents, agreements, and are paid without any type of interaction. What else is cool is on that screen, we put things like a birthday cake, or we have little insignias, which will tell the coach, like, this person's new, or this person's birthday, or this person has an anniversary at the gym, or stuff like that. So, like, the little touch points that make your gym experience unique, it allows the coach to figure that out without them having to, like, pull out their phone and dig through things. And, well, they won't do that, but, it gives them that information.
Gotcha. I like that quite a bit. And like you said, that's very useful, because it's you could do that with minimal staff. You don't have to have, anybody dedicated to that. So when you talk about lead management, so how does the lead come in? Like, say if a lead comes in from social media or your website, how does that go into the software and then get into that lead funnel?
So there's a couple different ways. I mean, the way we prefer is through and this can't happen all the time, obviously, but through a lead process that PushPress runs. So you get a landing page that's a lead page, or you can use like a contact form in your website. So the one thing we hate is when gym owners are like, oh, you want to join my gym? Contact us. It goes to a page on their website and it's just like email. Because I'm sure you've done it. I've done it probably 3 times today. Like if I don't reply to someone's email right away, it gets buried behind 100 other emails and then I'll never do it.
Yep.
So any interaction that like comes through one of those interfaces on our end, we put into a lead page inside WordPress, right? So on your WordPress control panel, you'll have a list of leads. And from there, kind of like a traditional CRM, you can track them. You can say like, oh, I've talked to them, or you can actually send them an email or send them or call them from that portal. And then write notes. So what's cool about that is you can assign it to another coach and say like, oh, I talked to them. They're really interested in Olympic lifting. You're our Olympic lifting specialist. Can you give them an email or a call and bring them in? You could track that all the way to signing up. If that person using that same email address, because that's how we track them, signs up for a membership, it'll automatically convert the leads. So one of the cool things that we like to do in PushPress is give you data. So we can tell you like you have a 52% lead conversion rate. Your average membership value is $2,000. So an average lead is worth $1,000, that type of thing, right? But we automatically convert them. So a flaw I saw in a lot of other systems is you had to manually go back and say like, this person became a member, convert them. But because we know who they are and we know if they're becoming a member or not, we can just automatically do it for you. So a premise of the system is take as much heavy lifting off your plate and do it under the hood so that you can get the information and the processes done in place that you need without you having to manually do everything.
Yeah, I like that quite a bit. But what if you don't use WordPress? What if you use Wix or Squarespace or some other?
So eventually we will build the landing pages or the contact forms for those through JavaScript snippets. We don't have those yet. Right now, what you can do is you can embed the lead page that we have. We have in a way so you can embed it without any of the framing, right? So it just looks like a lead.
Like a part of your page.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, gotcha. All right, awesome. And then, so that's from a back end and a coach as far as managing leads, managing waivers, and check-ins and making sure everybody's paid up, as birthdays, anniversaries, which are key for member experience. So what does it look like? What are some of the advantages or the distinctions from a client-facing aspect? That, again, some of the holes that you identified that you filled.
So this is, to me, one of the most passionate things I'm about. I'm just going to name them right now. Might as well. MindBody is the biggest competitor. They have a client-facing app that absolutely is amazing. Very, very well done. It's the complete opposite of their back end, honestly, right? Like their customer experience is really, really good. What I loathe about it as a gym owner is it's basically commoditizing fitness for customers. So as a customer, I'm a member of your gym and I'm given opportunities to join other gyms or to like take up last minute deals at these other fitness facilities or whatever. And to me, that's, from a business standpoint, from their end, it makes sense, right? They're trying to drive as much traffic to as many gyms as they can. From a gym owner standpoint, it's terrible because you're basically giving your members opportunities to check out other gyms around you. Right. Yeah. So our member app is completely branded and made to look like your gym's experience. It is a PushPress app, but once you get in, it's like it could be your pictures, it's your brand logo, it's completely siloed to your gym, and it's your gym's experience. So, and it looks really good. So our goal, similar to your stated goal in this podcast, our goal is to make our gym owners and their gyms look amazing to their clients. Like, we don't really want the clients to know who we are. We don't care if we are in the equation or not. Everything, like from the check-in app to the screens to the member app and everything, is meant to look like a unified experience for your gym. So if your colors are red and your logo, is whatever, the whole experience looks like you made your own custom system, right?
Gotcha.
That's the idea.
And then what about from taking advantage of your services? What if can they sign up through the app? Can they try a free class, set up a starting point session, keep track of their membership, like all of that stuff?
So the member app, the phone-based member app is meant to take over once they have some interaction with your gym. It's not to set up that interaction.
Gotcha.
So those interactions are set up through landing pages, which again are really convenient URLs that you can cut and paste anywhere, Facebook, email, on your blog, or whatever, that give people a really quick and easy way to get into the gym. So you can use those to sign up a member, to give them a free week trial or a free drop-in, to sell a drop-in, for whatever reason you want. Like, these landing pages are perfect for, and that gets them into the system. From there, the system will prompt them to be like, oh, now your member join, download the member app to get more benefit from this.
Okay. And then you mentioned, because this has been something that we've been building out and trying to tweak and improve on, is that onboarding new members. So how is there a way to communicate with members through the app or through the software? Meaning, like, so say somebody gets the landing page, they sign the waivers, they come in, they try out the free session, boom, they join. Okay, now I want to onboard them. I want them to get the most out of the experience at my gym. How can your software help with that?
So as of today, we do that all through integrations. So you can integrate with MailChimp or Autopilot or UpLaunch or some of these other, I call them customer lifecycle journey type apps, which include communications. In the next probably 6 months, we are going to bring most of that in-house. So we will give you a rules-based triggering communication system. So you can say, like, based on any trigger, when someone becomes a lead, wait 2 days and send this text or whatever. Mm-hmm. We're kind of building out the whole trigger portion of it now. So we're firing events every time like a lead's converted, a lead's brought in, a new member joins, a person rebills, whatever. And then you can use all of those triggers to start firing off communications, tasks, activities that you want on your end.
Okay. Does that include text?
For US, it will. We have to find an international solution. That's the hard part of building this business across borders. Is US texting is easy. Internationally, it becomes a crazy mess.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. All right. So then the other part that always makes club owners pause is that I don't care if you've got 10 clients or, 200 clients, switching software is just a pain in the neck. So how do you guys reduce that friction for club owners who want to try you guys out?
Yeah, so it goes back to our whole philosophy that the software should do as much as it can for you. And then we go, up through this scale of, if the software can't do it, can your customers do it? If your customers can't do it, can your coaches do it? If your coaches can't do it, do you have to do it? And if you can't do it, can we help? Right? So that's kind of the scale. So we built a migration manager, which the first step of it we do. Like, we'll get a CSV or a Excel dump of your member list, and we'll import it for you. And then it gives you a list, and it's designed to take you about 5 to 10 minutes a day. Maybe the first day or two, it might take 10 to 15 minutes, but it consists of sending an email asking for them to, make the switch to all your customers, which sends them to a landing page that we built, which is really simple, like enter your credit card information. And then once they've done that, you assign them to a plan. This is kind of where the bulk of your time will be as the gym owner, because you have to kind of like cross-reference your old system. Mm-hmm. Your plans you'll pre-build. Mm-hmm. The plans are like templates, like membership templates. Mm-hmm. And you say, like, okay, Johnny just came through. He was on a 10 class punch card, but he's used 3 of them. So I have to assign him to the 10 class punch card, but burn 3 punches. Okay, done. Mary came in. She's on my unlimited package. That needs to rebill on the 7th of the month. So I'm going to set that up to rebill on the 7th. Done. But she had a discount, so we'll assign that discount to her, whatever. And then as you assign them one by one, they kind of go through. Okay. This works really well if you have good communication with your clients beforehand. So what we tell people is, like, have your coaches announce it every day in class. Hey, next week we're going to send out some emails. Make sure you do it. It'll be real easy. This is why we're going to do it. Let's write a blog post, make a video. Just get a bunch of content out there explaining why you're doing it, usually framed in the context of, like, why it's going to help you or why it's going to help them, right? This is going to make the gym better because I'm going to save money, I'm going to save time on whatever. It's going to be better for you. So I'd appreciate it if you help me. We found, like, for the most part, everyone will do it. You just set kind of a drop dead date, like, if January 1st. If you're not done by January 1st, the new check-in app will be out. You won't be able to check in. And then, so the most successful people that done it, they would have the owner, like, the coach will be coaching and the owner will stand by the check-in app and they'll watch people and be like, oh, you can't check in because you haven't done it yet. Just leave your credit card with me while you're in class. I'll take care of it. And you'll be all squared away. And I'll show you how to do this when you get done. Very, very little friction and feedback. Like, most people are totally willing to do it. It's, generally speaking, not as big of a pain as I know it is, because I run a gym. It's a scary thing. But the feedback we get from people, if they kind of execute through the playbook that we give, is it was way easier than they expected it to be.
Yeah, I gotcha. And then the other pain of switching software, I know when we switched from MindBody, they charged us a $600 non-refundable transfer fee to give us all of our client information. Do you guys do anything like that?
So that is in lieu of having your members go to this landing page and enter their credit card. Okay. So if you want to do it all seamlessly on the back end, you have to pay. It's not even $600 anymore. You have to pay a fee it's what it is they have to repackage that data in a secure format and hand it over to another company in a secure format, which costs some engineering time. That's where they're charging it. But it's also kind of a nice detriment not to switch, because if you're faced with a $600 now $700 or $800 bill to switch, you don't really want to. Mm-hmm. So we built this system to try and, like, I don't want you to pay $600, $700, $800. So we built this migration system so you don't have to. Like, okay, gotcha. That alleviates that.
So you have the ability to have the clients enter all that information instead of buying it from your current software provider.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. So it eliminates that fee, the need for that fee.
And what'll happen, I'm gonna address this right now, because somebody out there right now is thinking, like, well, if I do that, 4 of my members are gonna quit, right?
Yep.
Here's the deal. You know who those 4 members are who haven't been to your gym in 3 months, and you know who's gonna quit. And what you do is you just leave them on the old system. And once it becomes not worthwhile, like if you're paying $150 on your old system and your memberships are $100, once you have less than 2 people over there, then you turn off the old system and you just tell them, like, enter your credit card or quit. You choose, because you're going to end up losing money at that point, right? But you can leave the other system up as long as you're profiting on whatever's happening over there.
Yeah. And the bottom line is they're not quitting because of the software switch. If they love your gym, if they're happy there, they're not going to quit because of software switch. That's just a convenient excuse for them, especially if they haven't been coming in. Yep. But that's a whole nother podcast. Okay, so now let's talk the other brass tacks, price.
Okay, so again, we see ourselves as the Luke Skywalkers of this fight. We just launched a free version of Push Press because, looking across the industry, we recognize there's a whole bunch of gyms that fit into a couple categories. One, they're either kind of a garage gym and they don't really care to be anything bigger, and they do $3,000 to $7,000 a month because they got some buddies coming over to help with the costs. 2, a brand new gym, or 3, somebody who's underperforming because they haven't really figured things out business-wise. Because most people get into this business because they love fitness. Mm-hmm. They don't really realize they're becoming a CEO of a business, right? Mm-hmm. And then 4, people who figured it out and they're just blowing it up and they're doing great, right? So for the 4th bucket, we have Push Press Pro, which costs $139 a month now. Probably will be going up in price as we release some of these features I was talking about, which gives you unlimited use of the system, flat 2.9% billing, and 30 cents per transaction in the United States. International, it varies. Usually it's cheaper. United States is the worst. And that's that. For the other 3 buckets, the new gym, the underperforming gym, or the gym who just is fine being small, that's Push Press free. So that's $0 a month. So you're not paying any fixed fee. And we actually just add 1% to your transaction fees. So gotcha. If you're doing $5,000 a month in billing, it's going to net you $50 cost, right? Okay. So once you end up billing $13,900, which is $139 at 1%, we would just tell you, hey, you should probably flip the Pro, lock your rate at 2.9, don't pay that extra 1%, and keep going on Pro. So what's cool about this model is it aligns us with you as a gym owner. in that if you're billing 5,000 and you want to grow, it behooves us to help you grow, because then you're going to pay us our pro fee and become fixed. And then you have gotten hopefully so much out of us, you'll never leave us because we've helped you grow. We've been there for you. And now you're in a better place. Right. So that's kind of our angle.
So it's not based on like your client load or how many clients you're managing or anything. I guess it is, because once you get over a certain billing rate, then it behooves you to switch over to the pro.
Yeah. But it's just based on how much money you make, not on how many clients you have.
Gotcha. So, but once you go to pro, is there a cap?
Today, no.
Is there a cap where you have to like buy add-on features or anything like that?
So we do have an app store that allows you to. So we picture push press like your iPhone, right? Mm-hmm. Like in and of itself, it can make calls. It has a calendar. You can do email. But if you want to start like doing other things that are particular to you, you start installing apps. So that's the direction. That's the future of push press. Is our app store will be the future. Some apps might. What we want to do eventually is just like the Apple App Store, is open that up to developers to build all of their own apps, right? And let them monetize it if they want to. So similar to your phone, like some apps might cost money, some apps might be free, some apps might be free with, you know, some type of upsell on the back end. Like that will be all determined by the market. So yeah, like could you extend it into a whole bunch more and pay more? Potentially. As of today, like we don't have very many. We have a couple apps that are monetized, but not a ton. But that will be the future direction.
Okay. And what does it look like from a customer support standpoint?
So that's where I believe we are crushing it. You know, big shout out to my we call them customer success, my success team. Again, they're all ex-gym owners or gym owners. They all have been push press clients. They understand it, and they've all completely bought into this philosophy of ours that gym owners are number one, need help. They're doing great things, and we're here to support them. I think last month, our average response time to customer support chat, we do it all through chat, was 6 minutes was the average response time. And that includes stuff that comes in at like 2 a.m. and doesn't get seen till, 5 a.m. our time or something, right? So averages out. The goal for our guys is to basically be as real-time a support as we can.
Gotcha. Okay. And then what about as far as feedback for features? Like, hey, can I do this? Will they help walk you through it? Or if it's not available, how do you guys respond to that?
Yeah. So there's two answers in that. So one, we allow all of our clients right now, and again, this might change as we progress just because of scalability reasons, but right now, everyone who joins can book 15-minute kind of configuration calls with our team. So you go into the platform and you're like, oh, I really want to sell this type of membership and I want it to have a landing page this way and I don't really understand how to make that work. Boom, book a 15-minute call. One of our guys will get on, solve it for you, right? Sometimes out of those calls, it's like, oh, it's a feature we don't have, we don't support, we may not ever do, whatever. Those types of things go into a consideration request. We have like literally so many things to build and so many things we want to build that it's like managing that request list is pretty hard. And I mean, to be frank, like there's a whole bunch of different gym owners that run their gym a whole bunch of different ways. And from our position, half of those reasons are kind of wrong because they just did it because that's what the other software supported and they built their whole business around that. And it can be done in a different way on our end, or in our opinion, a more intelligent way. So some things may never get done. Some things are important and urgent and get pushed up to the top, and some things get put into the queue. But we are working hard to get everything done that makes sense.
Gotcha. Okay. Awesome. All right. Anything else that you want to add that we didn't get a chance to touch on?
I mean, I think that's the crux of it. Yeah, we talked about some pretty good stuff here.
Yeah. So what made you decide, and I know I asked you this on our initial phone call, but what made you decide, okay, I want to focus 100% on software and I want to sell the gym? What was that tipping point for you?
I mean, to be honest, it was funny. Like this business was so hard to get off the ground. I could think of at least 3 times where I'm like, I'm going to focus on the gym and quit this push press thing. It was, this is a beast to do. But I mean, ultimately, here's the deal. You as a gym owner are into this because you like helping your people, your tribe, your 100 to 300 people that are in your gym. It's not it's not like a lavish business where gym owners are making a ton of money, but they do it because of all the great feelings they get of all the people they help. I'm the same way. That's why I opened a gym. But now I'm in a position where I get to help you, who's helping 150 people, times 1,000, right? Times 2,000, 3,000, whatever. Hopefully we can grow to. That to me is just such a bigger magnitude of a problem that I'm helping the world get fitter as opposed to my community get fitter. And that's really what I'm just sucked into. I love it.
Okay. I gotcha. All right. Well, I want to respect our time. So we're going to start my favorite part of the podcast. And it is, they're not gotcha questions, but I think it's my favorite part because we get some of the best answers. So my first question to all my guests is, what has been your most successful failure? And by that, I mean, what at the time seemed like a devastating loss that you weren't going to be able to recover from, but you were able to take life lessons from that propelled you to greater success down the road?
Whew. You want the real answer?
Yes.
A tough one?
Yes.
That I'm almost not ready to answer here?
Yes, that's exactly what I want.
So in the first gym I was in, LAX CrossFit, I was ceremoniously kind of kicked out of because I got into legal trouble, because I had substance abuse problems, because I had a lot of issues inside of me that I didn't know how to deal with at the time, which led me to getting arrested, which led me to getting kicked out of my gym, which was literally the darkest years of my life. I had to own it. Went to AA, learned a ton of things in AA, became 100 times better of a person from it. And it ultimately was like the lowest point of my life, but became the building blocks of the foundation of everything I am now, which is I'm so thankful for.
Yeah. I can definitely relate to that. I had the same kind of experience, but for me right now, my saving grace is the Mankind Project. And that has, I found it in the darkest days of my life, but it's responsible for all the good things in my life today. So that's a great answer, and I respect your honesty. So how long ago was that? Just curious.
That was January of 2012.
Okay. Congratulations, man. That's awesome. All right. And then your time in the fitness industry, what has been the biggest surprise that you've had to deal with that you did not see coming?
I mean, I think a lot of it stems around the fact that opening a gym makes you have to step back and almost, like I said earlier, become a business owner. But that's not really what I was. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur, so I've always been into business. But once I got into the gym space, I love fitness. I love movement. I wanted to get every certification I could. And having to step away from that and hire people to handle all that, and me focus on the business was a hard thing to do because it's not what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think that in order to become a better person, or even the person that you want to be, you have to take a hard look at yourself. And that means the ugly stuff too, which is what you described in the first answer. And then what you talked about in the second one is the biggest problem that most gym owners face is, like you said, when you open a gym, whether it's a training studio, whether it's a one-person show, whatever it is, you're no longer a trainer. You're a business owner. And so when you open up a training business, usually the thing you do the least is train or work with clients, because you have to work on all the other stuff. And so that's one of the reasons, probably one of the biggest reasons why it's such a hard leap to make for most trainers, is because they want to be trainers. They don't want to be business owners. But the reality is you have a business. And so now you have to learn to run it. So that's a great answer. Last question. Where do you go for your personal and professional development?
Oh, so I actually have a business coach. His name is Dan Martell. Excellent guy. He's in the SaaS space, which is software as a service, which is what we're in. I listen to podcasts and audiobooks and read books daily. Something I've actually been professing to people, which is like my big 2019 thing, is I started running. I stopped working out in the gym so much. I started running more. Mm-hmm. And what got me hooked on that was I got to basically let my mind obsess about my business with no distractions. So you go out on the trails, I'm out there for an hour, I'm listening to a podcast, I'm thinking about my business, I'm relating it to my life, and there's nothing but nature around me. And I find that to be my meditative state where I can focus on business. I think that's kind of one of the big mantras I'm telling people is like, you can't work on your business when there's like people coming in asking for help on a movement and someone who needs a waiver signed and credit card needs to get changed, all this stuff. Like, you're not going to work on your business there. You'll be working in your business, but not on your business. Right. So you got to and that kind of lets me do fitness stuff and business at the same time. So that's my new thing.
Yeah. And I think you're a typical entrepreneur. And what I mean by that, and I'm including myself in this group, is that entrepreneurs tend to have addictive personalities, right? They go all in 100% pedal to the metal on everything, sometimes to their detriment. And I talk about it all the time. In order to have a good on switch, you got to have a good off switch. The better your off switch is, the better your on switch is. And a lot of times the answers to a lot of your problems come in those off times, in those off moments, like you were talking about when you're running and going through the meditative state. So I agree with you 100% there. All right. So what were some of the last 3 books that you read, Dan?
One of the biggest ones I've read recently, which doesn't apply as well to a gym, kind of does, is a book called Traction. It's about how to run a business and how to scale a team. To some degrees, I think that does apply to a gym. It's just at a lesser extent.
Okay.
Scaling up is a good one. Again, a little bit beyond the scope of a gym, but good. Starting with Why. All the Eric Ries books are great. You're following him. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts that are good. A good one is it's called Below the Line, which what I like about it is the concept is about an iceberg, and you see like the top 10%, but you don't see the bottom 90%. So he's in the Silicon Valley startup scene, but he talks about the below the line version of all these stories you hear about how, Airbnb had troubles, and you just see the success, but you don't hear about the problem. So that one's a cool one because you realize every business has struggles, no matter how big it is, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I call it the 10-year overnight success.
Yep.
It's like, oh, you got it easy. You boom, success. Like, no, brother, you have no idea. And it's like, I'm a big history buff. So I read a lot about like the founding fathers and this nation, like when this nation was founded, American Revolution, Constitution, all of that stuff. People think, oh, this was step 1, this was step 2. It's like, no, they had to figure that shit out. And some of that stuff almost didn't happen. Wow. So to your point, that 90% of the iceberg under the surface, you can learn a lot from that. Yeah. So all great points. So this book, Scaling Up, you touched on that briefly, but what did you get out of it?
I mean, it's basically, you've got to put a lot of effort and thought into the process of going from A to Z, right? And it's not just something that happens. It's like a meticulous process, right? So to me, it's just more about reshaping my mindset on how to. I have to be learning to be one step ahead of where we're going. That's the hard part of my position. Is it's kind of like someone who's back squatting every day. Like hopefully every week you're PRing. Every day I'm in this business, I'm like one step farther into a business than I've ever been. So it's about learning on how to be learning about the next scale of where I need to go and putting the pieces in place and how to get there before we're there, which is always the hardest thing.
Gotcha. All right. That's awesome. Okay. So where can people get in contact with you, find more about Push Press, get information, all that good stuff?
Yes. So pushpress.com is our website, just as it sounds. We have a blog there. We're launching a podcast soon, which will be putting out a bunch of stuff like this to the world. YouTube channels, Facebook, Instagram, and we're pretty much on all of it.
Okay, awesome. And all of those links will be in the show notes. So just click on this, go to trainergym.net, find this episode of the podcast, or you can also go to fitness.com, our new podcast partner, and the podcast will also be loaded up on their webpage. So you can click on the show notes, and all the links to contact Dan and Push Press will be right there. So Dan, this has been great. I would love to reserve the right to have you back on sometime, especially when you get some of those new features installed and as your company evolves and scales up.
Absolutely. Would love to.
Awesome, man. And if I'm ever in California, actually, I'm going to be out there end of April. Love to sit down and have a cup of coffee with you.
Yeah, let's do it. You going to be in LA?
Yeah. I will be in Irvine.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Close enough.
Yeah. Close enough. Awesome, man. Well, I'll definitely look you up.
All right.
All right. Thanks, man. Have a good rest of your day.
You too. Happy New Year.
All right. Same to you.